the best way to fight bad words is with good words. If you want to keep empowering them,
true. Hold on, wait a minute. That's also not true.
We will just mock them out of existence, won't we?
Well, yeah, because that's how it's ever worked. That's how it's worked. So what we'll say? What we'll say is we'll call a racist a racist, and then next thing we know, they'll vote for Trump. Because that's what happened.
Fucker, you win.
I know.
Wait, what?
I'm out. No, sure.
I tap out. No, go ahead, tap out. Hi, I'm Alix Jules, and you're watching Atheist Edge.
Also, I don't know if there's a screening process that happens with people applying to train in the first place, with men versus women being seen as we need this many or whatever.
Ooh, quotas.
But also, just an anecdotal for me, when I was working in a certain restaurant, there was a certain task that I was specifically told by male managers that for them personally was easier to train men than to train women, and that task happened to be the only way you could get into management. And so there were many more men in the management of that store than women, and part of it was that when you were hired, women were not trained automatically for that task, but men were, because they were seen as being more physically fit to perform that task. And so my problem with that was that specific task that favored male fitness was the only avenue to management. That's what concerned me about that. I agree with needing to know that in order to manage all of those positions, but specifically hiring women to be in a certain position that you have to finish your training and then start training on the other thing, versus men automatically training on this one thing that's a track to management. So that was my concern. But again, they didn't see that as discriminatory, because it was just, well, women don't want to learn this thing and men do.
I want to keep going with you if you're done, is because this is an example of why I am where I'm at, or where I choose not to be. Because I had the conversation of where I wanted to go with management. Now, I sure as hell know that I'm smarter than the average A, B, and C. And I'm looking at the people that are in a specific suite in my old job, and I'm like, this is the job that I want. And my manager looks at me and tells me very honestly, we were talking about this, on the way over here, is like, you're not going to be able to get into that office. It's like, why? It's like, you don't have the cultural background that they do. I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And at the time, I was height and tight. I was as corporate as they got. Yeah. Suit and tie, big blue. I mean, just Italian shoes and the whole nine. Right. I had my own pair of Bruno Malis. So that's how bad it was. That's how bad it was. I had my own pair of Bruno Malis, and it was straight up. You're not going to be able to get into that office. I said, what do I need to do to get into that office? And it's like, there's nothing you can do outside of being born differently. Being born differently, that's the only way you get into that office. And this is not a black man that's telling me. This is a white man who's working on his way into those offices, that is kind enough to tell me, you need to change your expectations or figure out a different route elsewhere, because that's not going to happen for you here.
You went to an Ivy League college too.
At that, yeah.
You went to Columbia.
Yeah, Columbia, and my background is actually at Harvard.
Do you know that?
Columbia and Harvard. So yeah.
Golly. Can we switch gears?
Yes.
Okay.
So in Illinois, I guess.
What YouTubers do you watch? Or what podcast do you listen to? Who is your biggest influence coming into the atheist community?
Into the atheist community, I want to say it was Dusty Smith. Cult of Dusty was kind of fun for me.
Disappeared after a while.
He's still around.
He's still around, but he's kind of changed his message a little bit. Yeah. And I kind of like the new Dusty versus the old Dusty, or the middle Dusty.
He's still doing a character, or is he?
No.
Doing him?
He's doing him.
He's gone gray, so he's Dusty the White now.
Yeah.
Because he's gone completely white.
So.
Yeah, so Dusty was kind of big. Seth Andrews, the Thinking Atheist, was also somewhat big at the point, but yeah, it wasn't too many, and that's actually why I think that it's important that we get the right representation or the right message going out there in terms of atheists, because when you're a Black atheist or a minority atheist and you see specific anti-you, not anti-SJW, anti-you messages that are out there, it might really, cause you to pause and say, I want nothing to do with this community, specifically the community. And we have anti-me rhetoric, not anti-SJW. Anti-me was a lot of them out there. You just y'all didn't realize it until I said it. And it's like, oh no, it's like, wow, we're gonna put them on parade. I'm like, oh, go right ahead. It's like now all of a sudden everyone's like, oh my God, we have them and they've infiltrated. Yeah. It's like they've been here.
As you mentioned Richard Spencer, is it ever okay to punch a Nazi?
That's a good one.
I think you and I agree on
Here
that.
we go.
So,
But no.
what is? I'm very specific on this. What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of
think,
like to hear what you got to say.
Have we not talked about this yet?
No, I don't think we have.
I say absolutely not. For one thing, it's about dialogue rather than like letting their arguments just fall on their own versus becoming like a worse guy in that situation. But also, I think it goes back to no matter what you think, no matter what you say, you still have bodily autonomy. That physical impeding on your person, whether it's sexual, whether it's violence, I think any of that is just not necessary, especially coming from a thinking intellectual person that can think beyond that and argue beyond that. You have more to say than just the end of your fist.
I'm going to disagree with her.
Okay.
But kind of. Okay.
Right.
And kind of. First off, because I don't believe that many of the arguments that we can have with some of these people are intellectually based at all. Because what we find is that just like religion, they're emotionally rooted.
Right.
They're very much rooted in
trying to
self-interest.
convince them. Let's be honest. You're trying to convince the people that are watching you.
Agreed.
Exchange with this person.
Agreed. Which gets me to my point, which is I can't actually answer that question because I don't have the same playing field when it comes to punching Nazi. So do you honestly believe that had that been a Black Antifa member that punched Richard Spencer, that he wouldn't already been in trial? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding
assault.
me?
It's
Are you?
assault.
Nah, that's not even. That's not even
Look,
funny.
Honestly,
Assault is assault.
in the
Hold
eyes
on,
of the
wait.
law.
Hold on. Assault is assault.
Right.
Assault is assault. So you telling me that a black man that rapes or violates a Black woman that gets 9 years in jail versus a Stanford swimmer that gets 6 months, that assault is assault? Get the F out of here. You have got to be kidding me. Assault is not assault in the United States. Hell no effing way.
No, I'm saying in the eyes of the
not
law.
only that,
The punishments
not
are
only that,
disparate.
not only that. We have study after study by Policy Institute, by university, even by
You're
conservative.
preaching to the choir, man.
That's
No, you
probably-
didn't.
by
but you just
conservative.
contradicted him.
That's probably also
No.
an income.
I say
So
in the eyes of the law.
assault is
In the
not
United States,
assault.
what he said.
No,
In
it's
the eyes of
not.
the law, it's not.
No, it's not.
No,
No, it's
I'm not
not.
saying
No, it's
the
not.
law-
The
the law
Guys,
in
we're all
action.
talking. Hold on.
Okay.
One
I'm
at a
not saying
time,
the
one at a
law
time.
in action. I'm saying the law in, not the law in practice. It's the law on paper.
But why does the paper matter if it's not in action?
Well, let's start there. Assault. We're talking about
Assault is
punching
not
a
assault.
Nazi.
It's
We're
not
talking about
assault.
punching a Nazi. Yeah, but the way it's
he does equal.
the way it's
Because
prescribed.
it doesn't.
It's because we're not
Doesn't, but
defining it
but
the same
okay,
way.
But not
let's
in
let's
practice.
let's
That's why
move
you're saying it
let's
doesn't
move
need-
pedantry
Yeah.
out of this conversation for a second.
The way the offenses are prescribed based on cultural differences could or could not be. We know it is. It's prescribed differently. I'm just saying the law in and of itself is the same across the board. When you punch a Nazi, it's still assault. That's all I'm trying to say.
That's not my reality. I'd
Yes.
argue that it's not even.
Wait, you're saying
Assault is absolutely assault, but it's not the same when it comes. But hold on, but it's not the same in terms of consequences. It does not. It is not the same in terms of consequences. And if you can't be intellectually honest and say that it is. So assault does not equal assault if it's 6 months and hey Billy,
but we're not
to
talking
leave
about
versus but we absolutely are, because those consequences specifically help determine behavior. So a white person gets to say, oh, well, I'm going to punch a Nazi and blah, blah, blah. I might get 3 weeks. I might get 3 weeks versus a year and a half.
Then what you're saying then is that it should.
And this is 3 strikes out.
The slope is slippery, and then it should result in more white people committing even more.
If
crime.
black people know they're going to get more, if black people,
how did you get there?
Because you're saying that we're thinking it's okay to just do whatever the hell we want because we'll never get in trouble for it.
We should be doing it more often.
That's what you're saying. So if that's true, then it should result in more white crime, right?
Hold on, I need a 53% intervention.
But what he's saying is that there is more to consider on his part when he's considering punching a Nazi versus you, that he has to consider a higher consequence and more. There's more to that situation.
If these people get their way, then you have a lot more at stake than I do.
Yeah,
so let's take the question.
Well,
back
but
up
and there's
to
more to
actually-
consider about how it looks and all of
where's
that
the slope
versus
end?
if Jim does.
What was
How
that? What was
much
that?
of a threat do we have to think somebody is before we say it's okay to punch them? Nazi level?
Let me reword it.
KKK?
Would you ever punch a Nazi?
Would I ever punch a Nazi?
If you knew you could totally get away with it.
That's the important question. What do you do when nobody's looking?
No one's
Especially when
looking.
nobody's
He
looking.
didn't see you coming. Would you do it?
Would I?
Yeah.
Would I punch a Nazi?
Or if a friend of yours, would you cover for him? Or you know what I'm saying? Let's take out the fear of retribution. Let's take out the fear of punishment.
What you're
Morally,
saying is
would
you
it be
think they
okay
deserve-
to punch a Nazi for his ideology?
Wait a minute. And
No.
I think
No.
you're ignoring the fact that I said that I can't, and that's my reality. Just like if I decide that I'm going to play basketball after hours and I get dragged into this fucking station versus my white friends who did the same thing the night before and got told to go home, the consequences are different.
Yep.
Basketball playing versus basketball isn't the same thing. And you're going to tell me to try and equate an assault versus an assault? It's not the same.
What if I throw in, you know you're not going to get caught?
Not the same.
No, it's not the same.
It's
all right.
not the same. Now we're completely now we're just playing. I mean, do I exist? Do I not exist? Do you exist? How do you know you exist? Can you convince me that you actually
No,
exist?
That's a presupposition in and of itself.
You don't have to
We could be in the damn Matrix.
Oh, man.
We presuppose we're sitting here and not in some basement of a hyper intelligent
It is-
14-year-old.
It is reasonable to believe that which is true.
I still say no. Because a Christian can make the same argument about an atheist. Is that in at least in Nazism, your terror ends at death. But
Wow.
with an atheist, if you are spreading this idea that eternity doesn't matter, then you are jeopardizing not only the life of someone, of your children, but the eternal life of your children. And that's more dangerous than what any Nazi can do in a lifetime.
Right?
That's what I'm saying, is that if you are physically assaulting someone that's completely unprovoked,
That's less
based-
serious than
based
fucking with
on
somebody's
based on
afterlife
something they
proposition.
believe. And again, a Nazi for me is a victim of their ideology.
Ugh.
Is
There's
the ideology?
probably some pretty evil Nazis.
Yeah.
going
What I'm
around.
saying is that they
Define
may
evil.
be exactly. They may
I don't
be
think
bad
it's worse than
people.
agencies.
They may be people in other ways, but based on what they believe
Yeah.
about themselves, being victims,
Yeah,
about
you
their
definitely
culture.
convince somebody of that. You have
Yeah,
to convince somebody
You
of
are
that, but not
taken
just
in by
convince
this
them.
idea, and do they I don't understand why that would even be a debate about physically assaulting someone based on what they think, what they believe. Now, if they are spouting something
If they're inciting
that's
violence, they
inciting
definitely have to
violence,
take it down.
that may be a different conversation.
Wait, wait.
But I
define inciting violence.
If you actually call to have
How do you
somebody
define it?
have violence committed on another human being
How about
in your
genocide?
presence.
How about genocide? We should kill all Jews, blacks, trans, gays. How about that?
Yeah, I don't think it's an incitement to violence. I don't think you're genuinely going like, hey, starting right now, go out there and find the first people you can and just kill them. That's not what that is. They're saying that in our ideology, there's this thing where we fucking don't think that anybody else should be living except fucking blue-eyed, blonde-haired white people. And that is shitty. It is a shitty way to think about it.
Especially when you're not blonde.
I have the blue eyes. I don't have the blonde hair. I'm Italian. My ancestors came here in the 1900s.
You have hair. Your prejudice against us bald people.
Yeah. I'm feeling a little...
yeah, I know, right?
That ideology is based on misinformation about evolution versus eugenics, and eugenics being that people. This may not be.
This is great. No, this is a wonderful.
But basically that the difference between like evolution is about passing physical traits through generations with genes. Wait, please. And eugenics is about this idea of personality characteristics and character characteristics being passed on through genes as well. So the mistake is made where you add that in eugenics, which is terrible science. And what the Nazi Party may have been other things as well, but what they believed in terms of eugenics was that if you filter out the physical characteristics, you will also filter out character flaws. And so those character flaws will not be a detriment in the society in the future. So you're creating a better utopian society in the future. And so that's what I think is dangerous about, but it's only flawed because the science is bad. They don't know that is bad. So if that's true, if that were true, then they would be following a higher goal and a higher morality based on what's best in the future. And that's what's so terrifying about the potential of ideology, is that if you are basing your morality and what is moral, you can justify anything in this life if it benefits a future life and if it benefits future generations.
It's one of the perfect examples of how like ends don't always justify a means.
No, but that's the point, is that it may, if that were true. If that were true.
Think about it. I mean, I don't think as human beings we even want to think about what that.
But that's what they had to.
Yes.
Well, couple that with dehumanizing these groups in Nazi Germany, and that's what's so for me, that's what's so terrifying about ideology versus reason and information.
No. Well, Nazi's a political party. There's technically not
Nazi
party.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Democratic Socialist Workers Party of Germany. That's a Nazi.
Potentially.
Yeah,
pedantics.
We're talking about
words, dicing words.
It's pedantics.
It's pedantics, and I swear it was actually almost amusing if it wasn't so sad. Is I had this thought of a guy being pulled, and because this is where we are in American politics, is a guy being pulled off of a General Lee's horse, being dragged off the horse, right, the statue, and by guys screaming Sig Heil with the swastika, screaming, "They're still not Nazis! They're still not Nazis!" Because that's where we actually are. Because we're arguing that no, they're not Nazis. Okay, sure, they're not Nazis as in the German political force, the political party. But we've got neo-Nazis,
right?
American Confederate Nazis, and everything in between. So because
I
we're
would define
not,
it as adhering to that ideology.
It doesn't
It doesn't matter.
Well, we're just quibbling over semantics.
Exactly.
It's-
It is
Like
all
define-
semantics.
They espouse
Nazi.
everything.
All
They
semantics.
espouse everything the Nazi Party stood for.
That's what
And
I'm
then
saying.
some. And then some.
We're just,
and then
we're
some.
just trying to be literal.
Yeah,
You can't.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
a political
And then some.
They
party.
take it
So
further,
anyway,
It is
Yeah.
exactly. So it's how do we expand exactly? So and I could actually see many Americans that don't fit, and this is the problem with, and maybe I'm just too much of a pragmatist. It's like I could see many of you guys getting dragged off to certain places and going on certain trips, and y'all are screaming, "They're still not Nazis," while you're being dragged to the same
that's
places
one outcome.
that I'm.
And if you want to keep punching Nazis and put a bike lock in a sock and hit them in the nose during a live broadcast, you just continue to empower them. The best way to fight bad words is with good words. If you want to keep
That's also
empowering
not
them,
true. Hold on, wait a minute. That's also not true.
we will just
That-
mock them out of
that-
existence, won't we?
Well, yeah, because that's how it's ever worked. That's how it's worked. So what we'll say? What we'll say is we'll call a racist a racist, and then next thing we know they'll vote for Trump. Because that's what happened.
Tucker, you win.
I know.
Wait, what?
I'm out. No, shut up.
I tap out. No, go ahead, tap out. So if he's actually being a racist and having bad ideas, and I call him out by saying, "God damn it, Jim, you're a racist,"
But you don't do it.
what actually happened?
Yeah, you don't,
What-
you don't do it with
outrage
labeling.
to
You
it.
do it by
Yeah, you do it with
deconstructing the
reasoned
argument.
arguments. Virtue signal and go, "Oh, I'm so much better. I'm so much not a piece of shit as you."
But
are."
it's not
Don't
virtue
do it
signaling.
like
No,
that.
hold on.
Mhm.
Calling someone out
Yeah.
specifically on
No,
their
you can do
actions,
that, but it's just not
specifically,
gonna help.
is of course that's not going to help because people entrench in their own ideologies,
Yeah, well, yeah.
right? And everything that they seek is confirming those ideologies.
Well, we already said earlier too that we're also not doing it really for their benefit. We're doing it for the benefit of the conversation that's being looked at in general.
And you calling them a racist is going to perpetuate their self-identification as a victim.
Yes,
That's
Yeah.
a good point. She makes a good point.
whether it is or isn't.
I thought
true.
that was the point you guys were making.
No,
but
well,
I'm
yeah,
just-
in a way
I
that
was
actually
just
just kind of adds
articulating
to it. That yeah,
I
I
was
mean,
going to
Yeah.
eventually get
yeah.
there.
Well,
Curveball. Here we go.
What?
Name the biggest thing we could do as an atheist, as in the atheist community to. We know there's divisiveness right now, worse
It's always
than ever.
been there.
Yeah, I think it's worse than ever.
It's
We
always
talked
been
about
there.
it in the car on the way here.
No. You all are now seeing it and saying it's
Okay,
worse
okay,
than ever.
okay.
I think
But
it maybe
sure as hell,
includes-
I've seen it.
What can we do to bring us all back?
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Is the divisiveness including more people now? Like, is that the difference?
maybe it just seems like more
Yeah.
divisiveness because
That-
there's a bigger group.
Right?
Yeah.
Bing, bing, bing.
Is that right?
like the
Bing.
divisiveness existed, but
There we
it's
go.
that more people
There we
are
go.
getting on both sides.
Why aren't there more
numbers.
females
In what?
Women,
in the atheist
right?
community?
Yeah.
Why aren't there more females in the atheist community? They're out there. Why don't they join?
Why aren't there more black people in the
I don't
atheist
know.
community?
What did Britt say? Something. What?
Why aren't there more black people?
Well,
Oh, we know why.
Why?
You want to say it or me?
No, go ahead. I want to.
The black community is more entrenched in pious Christian evangelical thought, and it's harder to break out of the
it's really
the
well compartmentalized
religious
if that's the
mindset.
case.
because it was forced into their heads, and
Well,
it's
you
harder
did
to
say,
get out
so
of.
you
I'm
did
always
say
kinda
that
wondering
the
about that
population
too, like-
demographic of black people in the atheist
Not even
community
close.
is
I'm not even
is
close,
it
really.
representative?
All right.
Well, what is your? That's something that I wanted to ask today.
Here's
I got to hear this.
Here's the question: why aren't more black atheists not only represented or more visible or want to be part of the atheist community?
Want to? Okay, man, that's
So
a
it's on
huge
us to
mouthful.
want
Which
to-
one?
It's on us to attract minority atheists, right?
I mean, because
There's fewer out
because-
there to choose from. First off,
true, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, we don't have
that's
a lot. We don't have a big
absolutely
pool.
true.
there's not a big
But
pool.
but one is absolutely true. There's a smaller pool, but two, no, you don't have a small pool, or you have a small pool. That's
Well,
that's
yeah, What's
relative.
represented to us is a small
Right.
pool, but it may not be as small as we
It's
are
not.
willing to
We're growing.